Look, by way of introduction, yes, my name is Ty Casey. I'm the founding member and current vice chair of the ADF Wargaming Association. What I got asked to do today was to come down, first of all, let a lot of you know that we do have an association, it exists, have a chat about that, and then introduce some potential concept ideas regarding the use of specifically tabletop miniature wargaming and how we can use that to enhance some of our already solid processes, specifically in this case, the existing tube processes that we're doing as a quick fix so we can inject some potential new learning methods or testing tools for courses of action, whilst some of these other big things in the background through BMS, computing and that get created, because as we know, those things take a long time. Now, I'll start off with the first half of the presentation on the association itself. What I wanted to talk about there was some good quotes that I found doing some research late last night. Typical wargamer, always doing things at the last minute before a tournament or a presentation. But that wargaming is a human activity essential to mission success that encompasses the broad goals of stimulating ideas, highlighting critical tasks, and providing insights otherwise difficult to achieve during planning. And the last two presentations have really highlighted that, both from the boss and CO6 ESR. I've learnt a lot, I've re-evaluated a lot that I've learnt even in the last 80 minutes, and what I've learnt from that has enhanced my knowledge of wargaming, things that I already knew but has now been clarified, and it's been fantastic, so everybody gets to grow. I'm going to talk about this stuff quickly here on the association. First of all, I'll introduce the committee, who unfortunately I'm the only member that can be here today. I'll define miniature wargaming a little bit. I'll talk about how we founded, our mission and purpose, talk about the annual events that we hold currently every year, talk about the impact we've been having in the community, both defence and networking with the civilian community, including some welfare benefits that have been a bit of a side benefit to what we've been doing, and I want to talk about the association's future. First of all, up there, the committee, Major Dave Hill, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. He's had DHA removals booked in for quite some time and is shifting house, and we know it's easier to deploy an operation overseas than it is to change those dates. Obviously myself, a bit of background. I joined in late '99 as a young fella out of Perth, did about 12 months reserve time, decided this is definitely for me, went full time. My heritage is 6 RAR till about 2008, recruit instructor at Kapuka. I've then been at 1 RA up in Townsville, sort of up until now, with a couple of years break at Defence Recruiting. So I've seen a bit of a full cycle and spent time overseas, both in the MEO and through East Timor. Charles Bryers, our secretary, that's the photo he sent me. I make no apologies. He's a very enthusiastic wargamer and geek, and he's currently one of the OPSOs at the School of Signals, obviously in Melbourne. That's the three of us that make up the key team, and obviously our patron, Colonel Gunda. One thing that's been highlighted in the last few presentations is how our soldiers through wargaming are actually learning by stealth. They don't know they're doing it. It's helping their decision-making process. It's putting them in situations where they've got to make decisions that have effects and outcomes. You can read that for yourself up there, but in a nutshell, without repeating the whole last presentation, that is why we wargame. Miniature wargaming in particular usually provides victory conditions, and you need to obviously make your decisions, use your forces versus the enemy forces to achieve those victory outcomes, whether it might be a war of attrition where you need to simply destroy the enemy. It could be holding ground. It might be something really obscure. You may need to retrieve something and get back to your deployment area, whatever that particular game might make you do. But what all of those activities do is forces the player or the participants to think, to act, observe their opponent and try and outwit each other. That's the idea. Some games may have two similarly matched forces, or the scenario that they've created, usually led by Timmies and Johnnies, might be to replay a particular scenario where a platoon might be versing a company. We know the platoon's potentially going to lose, but how well can they do? It puts you in different situations to be able to try different things. Right, the founding. 2009, 2010, this was effectively founded out of my garage as an RI at Kapuka. See, through my tabletop wargaming network, found some like-minded, enthusiastic individuals, and that's the key thing with regards to tabletop wargaming is enthusiasm. And we outgrew my garage, shifted into the Kapuka Community Centre, and then from there realised, hey, there are a lot of closet nerds in the ADF. There's a lot of people, and I'm very, very proud one, there's a lot of people who do this as a pastime in all walks of the ADF, from special forces right down to the guys who are doing IT. It encompasses a large bite of people. So we put the feelers out to see who was actively doing this. We got together at the end of 2010 and ran an unofficial event out of ARTC, because that's where obviously I was with all of my equipment, and quickly discovered that yes, this is big, we should make something of it. Let's form a body, let's formalise this a little bit to help our soldiers especially get some sort of legitimacy to their request to their chains of command that, hey, we're pretty keen on attending this event, I'd like to go. And that was the biggest driving factor of the association. We can run events whenever we want, but getting the support of obviously chains of commands who in some cases are uninformed, they don't know about wargaming. There's a lot of misconceptions out there. Particular example, we ran our first official event in 2011 where we were ratified, and we had a couple of Navy guys from Cairns who wanted to come down and participate. They got in touch with us, said look, their chain's giving them a bit of guff. Can the committee contact them and just explain that, hey, we're coming down for a wargaming reason? And even we couldn't get through to them. They thought they were coming down to drink beers and play Xbox for 2 days, and that wasn't the case. I won't bore you with the outcome. They did come down. Obviously, they ended up taking leave out of their own book to travel and do so, but that's how enthusiastic some of these guys are. Anyway, 2011 we were ratified, and ever since then we have been running 2 major events per year. Currently we have 270 official members, a lot of people who haven't sent in their forms yet, but I suspect now that awareness is getting out there at the proper levels and we send some more messages out, that membership will grow. Our mission and purpose, there's 3 parts to it. The first one there is to promote the tabletop wargaming hobby as an alternative activity within defence that promotes that tactical thought process. Secondly, our mission as an association is to hold events where people can come together and compete, both in a legitimate competitive nature through tournaments, but also in just a social interaction environment. And last but definitely not least, to raise funds for our chosen charity, which currently is Soldier On. That's the side thing we do with fundraising at our events. Currently, I think we've raised over $70,000 since 2011, which has been donated a little bit to Legacy, majority to Soldier On. Not a large amount over that many years, but a very large amount when you compare how disproportionate the amount of people involved are. We typically at our events average around about the 60 to 120 player mark, and it is growing, that come down for the weekend when we hold these things, with the potential, should the word get out there, for it to grow exponentially. We run 2 major events and 1 series of minor events throughout the year. Our first event, Anzac Cup, funnily enough, run in vicinity of Anzac Day, where the work tempo, major exercises and school holidays generally allow us to. That was originally founded by an enthusiastic mate of mine, Danny Whitehead, who's now since left Army, and that basically grew off what he did. We, I suppose, took it under our association banner, and it has flourished since then. So that's our mid-year event. HeroCon, it's funny where the name came from, actually. It was obviously with the charity focus and everything that we do, we thought it was a good play on words, hero meaning soldiers, winners, each other, but also to the characters and things that the guys play in their games. Thus HeroCon was born. We run that every December, traditionally in Townsville, now in Brisbane, because I'm shifting south and I'm the one with all the kit. So it kind of needs to shift a little bit. And that's usually run on the first weekend where the majority of the combat brigades start leave. So guys sort of stay in location, attend the event, and then go off on their holidays on the following Monday. This year, unfortunately, it is not occurring. We've had to recently I suppose, postpone that until next year. This year we're having a little bit of a reset year. Anzac Cup was held in a very small capacity in Townsville, noting that obviously 1 hour is online. I've been very busy. Major Hill has just got back from deployment. The committee's just legitimately busy. Obviously we all know work does come first. I'm now posting, and I'm the person with the literally unimogs worth of equipment sitting in my garage that I've collected over the last 25 years that we run these events with, and it's in DHA removal trucks. I'm posting back to Kapooka next year. So we've decided to put a bit of a time out this year, and we'll start up again in 2018. Wingman is based around a Star Wars game called X-Wing, where we get all our budding pilots and fleet admirals in, and they literally grab their X-Wings and TIE fighters and off they go. That's held at Soldier On headquarters in Canberra, and Dave Hill runs that multiple times per year because it's a very quick thing to establish, and that maintains our relationship with Soldier On. Very happy to say that next year Anzac Cup will be held at Soldier On headquarters in Canberra, providing we don't get too big for their facility, which we might have to find an alternate venue, but we'll see how that goes. And HeroCon will remain in Brisbane for 2018 as well. They're the major events we run. Now, I've had questions asked, do we have clubs on bases and things like this? Look, the answer I'm going to give now, because I'm sure it's one that may come up, is no, we don't. And we don't do that because club constructs obviously come with a massive workload, there's property, there's all sorts of things. This association is more about having a central point of call where interested parties can make contact to help deconflict communication with chains of command to, that's the word I'm looking for, to explain and describe exactly what their soldiers, sailors and airmen, because we are tri-service, are wanting to come up and do on that weekend, why they're wanting that Friday off so they can travel to come and attend one of these events, etc. And we're that conduit for that. That's our main purpose. Also the event management and administration. We encourage enthusiastic people to start up groups in their own locations. However, we provide them with the tools and the information. They do it themselves because, as with most things, when an enthusiastic member posts from a location, things tend to die. So they it remains mobile. It's happening with us, obviously. I'm moving from Townsville. Our stuff's shifting south. Community and welfare. When we started these events, we wanted to see units supplying teams so that the teams could directly compete with each other from different units. And we achieved that a little bit throughout 3 Brigade because I was up there and had a fair bit of influence. And for a while there, we even had awards. I think 1RAR still has the Warhammer 40,000 award, and we haven't had a team competition since. What we did very quickly, though, was expand the association to incorporate emergency services and ex-serving members, rightly so. And in the last 2 years especially, mainly because we wanted to focus on the charity effort, because the military numbers were dwindling because of the friction and misconceptions with chains of command and people's ability to get away to the events. We started including the civilian community as well and inviting them along to attend, participate and network with us. One, is a great promotion tool for defence, but 2, more people allowed our charity efforts to obviously be better as well. Now, through that, we've discovered, and you'll note there's a photo of my mate Danny up there that I spoke about earlier, who started Anzac Cup. There's a lot of guys who are increasingly using this as a PTSD outlet. Because for those that have painted, just a hand who does actively do miniature wargaming now? Yep. I know it's my little, to quote Bad Boys, woosah activity. Every night when I get home, I spend 30 minutes in a room painting something, and that's my chill out time. The guys that are suffering from some of these mental illnesses, and I like to think we're all a little bit crazy wearing the green, need those time out activities, and it allows them to focus in on something. And these are some of the key points that Danny discusses in that article. And I'll be frank, and we've spoken about this. Danny was my first 2IC when I was a lead years ago. He wouldn't be here today without it. That's how much impact simple activities are having, the social interaction that is occurring because of it, and it's a positive thing all around, it really is. As far as the future goes, we're going to continue, as I've discussed, to run our 2 major events next year. Potentially, if Dave has some time, we'll run some wingmans. But our biggest thing that we want to do, and this is a perfect opportunity for it to start, is we're going to start engaging out of nowhere directly with unit COs to try and educate them that we exist. This is what we do. Tie it into some of the awesome information I've seen on the last couple of days, so thank you for that, or the last couple of hours. And try and get some more participation from units to get their soldiers up. We have limited funding, hopefully maybe some again, we'll see how that goes, where we've been reimbursing some partial allowances to soldiers to come up, but obviously it can cost a lot of money to get people in. What we're lucky with is that most wargamers, if they know they're coming to a quality, well-run professional event, which is something we do in spades because of the nature of how we do business with everything else, they come of their own accord. They drive, they fly, they will travel to attend these things out of their own pocket. And we're hoping to maintain that by simply getting unit commanders on board that when, Digger A wants to go down to this thing, he goes, look, here you go, mate, here's a short day, Thursday, Friday, travel down in your own car, under your own steam, and off you go, so he's not burning through his leave book. That's a bit of a thing there. Now, and I'm really encouraging to see that this is being noted by senior commanders, that wargaming is something that we can do. And if we can get Digger A playing with some miniatures and rolling some dice and learning without even realising it, then everybody benefits. That corporate knowledge grows. I think I'm speaking to the converted here with regards to that. That's all I'm going to talk about with regards to the association itself. We're very simplistic. We're just there as a conduit to organise these couple of activities and to be a point of contact for people that are wishing to attend these activities and participate. Whether it be from a hobby perspective, whether it be from I want to come to this tournament, be Spike, completely break everyone's morale and walk away with the trophies or whatever it might be. But we encourage all those people to come along and take part and then networking with the community. But are there any questions on the association itself? We do, ADFWGA.com. No, 100%, sir. There's already informal DRN forums, obviously through Outlook, where you could waste all day on there in discussions without actually achieving any work. No, sorry, we do play board games as well. Yes, sorry. We incorporate everything. We have card players rock up, we have board games come up. At the events, we have areas for them to do that, and we invite civilian board gaming associations and clubs to come and take part of that. I suppose focusing on the miniature wargaming, that's what has the most planning behind it that we need to do. Running a tournament, there's a fair bit of stuff that goes into it. It's not something we can just stand up overnight. I can put that into a tabletop tournament context and Exhibit A right here. I am a Johnny and a Timmy at heart. I want to be Spike, but the dice gods, as we say, don't favour me very often, even though I might have some pretty solid plans. I understand that I'm learning when I do it and probably understand a bit of the science behind it, even more so now after the last Prezzo. But to put me in that shoe, every tournament I attend, every game that I play, I know I am getting better. There's three key things to winning a war game. The first of all is understanding we'll say the objectives, the mission or the rule set. The second one is understanding the capabilities of your own forces, which is pretty easy to do. The third and hardest one to do is to understand what the enemy can do, especially as you know with games, there are so many different potential enemies. You need to be an encyclopedia. And the only way to really learn that third point, which is when you become a master at that particular system, is by playing games and by learning that information and by losing. So I'm due for a win very soon, hopefully, because I keep losing. Is because I'm a self-obsessed nerd, I love playing with little miniatures, and I've got some... Very much so, sir, yes. I've got some example 6mm Australian modern stuff down here, including legitimately Bushmasters, one of the new Land 400 vehicles, even AS4s, not just M113 miniatures, they're accurate. It is, it's about the right size, I think, scale-wise, so yeah. But no, I've actually been working in my own time on a 6mm modern system that is very, very, very simple to test courses of action as a bit of a hobby. So salesman hat on now. What I'm interested in showing you is that we can potentially use this as a very cheap learning tool, as I discussed at the start, where we can band-aid a problem, start building corporate knowledge, whilst the electronic version, which networks into BMS and all that sort of stuff, obviously comes about, because that will obviously be a slow beast. As I've already discussed now, a 6mm scale course of action tester. That's effectively the rule set that I'm looking at. What this rule set that's being developed is testing is from MAP gets done by the individual or the group. They get to this stage where they're ready to test their courses of action versus enemy most dangerous, most likely, or the other 57 options that might be on the table. And we grab the friendly, we grab the opposing force, we put them on a tabletop with real-time terrain, and they basically have at it from H hour to reorg, and we see how well that course of action unfolds. We then have the ability, because it's relatively quick to do, and we're looking at about 60 to 90 minute turnaround for a combat team level activity, to do that multiple times in a day as part of a learning or a shoot process where they can make tweaks to their courses of action in real time and things unfold till they get a solid plan. Now, as was discussed before with force ratios, etc., the miniatures would represent that. Generally speaking, a company's going to take a platoon. That's kind of how we work. But has that company also got air support? Has it got guns on station, or are they second in line for that fire? Has there been adequate SA done? Have they got eyes in the air? We can use the game system to really get up to that 4, 5, 6 to 1 ratio with those multipliers, and not only win the battle, but win it decisively with limited casualties, because ultimately that's what we want to achieve. That's what we do for a business. The rule set and those miniatures are off the shelf. They are cheap, very cheap, and the system caters specifically for that combat team to battle group level stuff, with the idea that it'll focus on junior commanders who want to do that one-up, that training, a lieutenant to combat team, OC to battle group CO type stuff. And we're actually unofficially talking with some people at the moment on COAC to get some of their scenarios so we can miniaturise that and potentially play these out sometime next year to give it a go and see if it works. The tool itself, as I've already said, enhances the existing tute process and is a learning tool suitable for courses or scheduled professional development. And I'll talk about some pros and cons in a minute. Uses a simple 6-sided dice and orders mechanic. At the moment, I think we're up to about 20 different potential orders you can give your units, whether it be simply advancing, whether it be rushing, whether it be reduction of obstacles, or whatever it might be, to provide an outcome. It makes, and the key thing here is it makes use of doctrine and assumed knowledge, because everyone should know their tabulated data on things like weapon systems and armour, and that then gets translated straight to the tabletop, which in itself leads into one of my advantages. You don't need to spend 4 days learning how to play this game to effectively use it. There's a simple mechanic, and I won't get into it now because I'll be here all day, but a simple D6 mechanic based off a few charts on a Viewy Tui, and off you go. You know that your F88 with the new sights is good to about 600 metres with a trained infantry soldier behind it. Well, that on the table translates to 60 centimetres. You can judge your distance by simply looking at it. The scale being 1 millimetre is 1 metre, and off we go. It's highly portable. You can see there that a platoon's worth of stuff fits in a little box. It doesn't take much at all. The system is flexible to allow that human element, because at its core, not only is there good guys, bad guys, blue 4, red 4, there's a games master to bring in that role-playing element to be able to, with their gaming experience, i.e. someone like myself or Major Hill, to be that person off to the side, to, as they make a decision which isn't necessarily covered by the rules, but they want to do it in real life, we can adapt the rule set on the spot to make that happen, to see if it works. And that's where it brings in that flexibility for the human element. It's Can be employed from simple QDEs. Let's grab some section commanders or platoon sergeants, throw them in there. There's your scenario, have at it, and they can come up with their course of action on the fly and make those decisions, more of the game side of it, or part of a full-blown group MAP, where we issued them the scenario a few days prior. They go through their normal process, and up to the point where we're ready to put the troops in the field, that's when we would then obviously go to the tabletop and run through that, whether it be everyone around the table or whether to immerse them even more. We have a CP set up next door, overhead camera, and commands come through the radio to manoeuvre units. The imagination is the key with this. Disadvantages. You need specialists to get the best out of the system. You need that person with that military and gaming knowledge to pull this off, to be those game masters. Specific real-time terrain replicas can take time to produce. As a digger in SIG Platoon and 6 RAR years ago, they knew that I did this sort of stuff, and I actually created a 2-scale, full-size replica of the barracks and the training area at Enoggera. Literally, I layered up foam off the topo map on the old overhead projector, like Lego blocks, smoothed it all down. It was pretty accurate. I wish I knew where it was right now, because I'd love to have it, but it's probably in a bin somewhere. That was about 15 years ago. It takes time to produce that stuff, but it can be done if we're given time to achieve that. And it can be done quite cost effectively as well. The kit itself obviously needs to be assembled and painted for best effect to get that immersion into the environment. And it's not very effective for stuff below combat team or above battle group. Below combat team, there's other potential systems out there. The computerized stuff is very good for that, because each soldier obviously controls themselves. And above battle group, it's starting to get a bit strategic, and just the miniatures, the scale, you can't put a whole country in a room. So you need something different. But to target OCs, COs, or potential OCs and COs, that's where this thing fits into the whole process. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. I want to run a 5-day shoot package in the first quarter, second quarter next year to test this at 0 cost to Army, because we already have the kit. We just want some room, myself and Major Hill, some guinea pigs to see if this actually works. If it does work, then obviously we could go through the potential process on acquiring sets of miniatures for sim centres or et cetera, and see if it goes.